these things out and what the domino effects could be. Let's start with the two-time Finals MVP, Kawhi Leonard. How will his decision impact the Clippers organization immediately as far as what they're able to build around him?
Well, yeah, as you look at the Clippers' salary cap situation, technically kind of under the cap, but they still have Kawhi's cap hold counting. So when you slide him in there, likely $39 million, a two-year contract, 1+1 to get him back out in the free agency. You see that number kind of goes, now they're $29 million.
Yeah.
I mean, even like if we look at their salary, their luxury tax, they're in the luxury tax. It's limited now. So now you're looking at players like Reggie Jackson. If we can go down here, Reggie's going to cost you a little more than that $4 million. So you put him in there. I mean, it's basically kind of bringing back your own roster. So you're looking at Reggie Jackson. You're looking at players like Nick Batum. Remember in the draft, they were able to move back up 4 slots to get Keon Johnson. They made DJ Boston, Jason Preston. But Sage, it's going to be about youth movement here because this $39 million number is going to be rehabbing for most of the season here, and there's going to be a big emphasis certainly on Paul George, but you're looking at most of this roster coming back, but with an injured Kawhi Leonard.
And that's the thing, is to not even fully know where he's going to be health-wise, but it's still Kawhi Leonard.
And here's the other thing. With him opting out of his contract, they do not have a disabled player exception. They were able to get a $9.5 million disabled player exception if he opted in. Now that he is technically a free agent, that goes out the window.
Wow.
So that's a resource that they now lose because he's a free agent.
Yeah, obviously with numbers like that, it's going to make things a little bit tighter. And if they want to really compete out there in the Western Conference, they're going to need a healthy Kawhi and then a little bit more. One of his former teammates in Toronto got the ring together is Kyle Lowry, and Woj reporting that Kyle could be headed to Miami in a sign and trade agreement with the Raptors. So again, take us through the numbers and how the Heat could make that work.
Yeah, when we look at Miami, and we'll pull them up here. So what happened yesterday was they exercised the option of Goran Dragic.
Right.
There was 2 different ways they could have approached this. They could have gone under the salary cap and tried to sign Kyle Lowry outright. They decided to exercise that option and act as a team over the salary cap. So now we're looking at a trade standpoint. Lowry at roughly $25 million, Dragic at $19 million, and then maybe we throw in a player like Precious Achiuwa. And what happens is that we take both players out and we put Kyle in. You're still a little bit under the salary cap. And what happens, you can have a player like Duncan Robinson that you can bring back here. You have his bird rights, you can exceed the cap, so you're staying over the salary cap. You have your $9.5 million mid-level exception to go out and use in free agency. I don't think it's going to be enough to get a player like DeMar DeRozan.
Which they would love to pair them back up together.
Yes,
in the
that would have to be a discount there, but I don't think, we'll keep an eye on it.
And you know what? DeMar might do that, right? Because it's been a tough couple of years there in San Antonio. It hasn't gone the way he wanted. And to get back with him and play with him, you could see the possibility, but today your gut for that would say, don't get your hopes up?
No, let's just see how the market plays out.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen guys.
Back to the NBA, we need the Lakers capologist to address our nation's national deficit. Tuesday, the Lakers added Melo to the fold. It's a 1-year deal, got to be team friendly, given their flurry of other moves. Nunn, Monk, Horton, Tucker. Anthony averaged 13.5 in 24 minutes last season, became the 10th all-time leading scorer in NBA history as well. Once all of these moves become official, the Lakers will have 13 players on their roster, 8 of whom are age 32 or older. That puts LA on track to have one of the oldest teams in NBA history. Only 4 teams have had an average age of 32 or older. The Lakers, of course, will hope to follow in the footsteps of the '98 Bulls, who won it all. But between LeBron and Melo and Dwight and Russ, that's 4 of the top 60 scorers in NBA history. Bobby Marks joins us now. So a lot of us are wondering, there's a salary cap here, right? I mean, how are they pulling this off? Explain the money.
Yeah, when we entered free agency, the Lakers had about $130 million, which was $18 million over the $112 million salary cap. So their options were really limited. We called it bargain shopping here. And what they were able to do was they had 3 different options. Talen Horton-Tucker, they signed him today to the early bird exception. They're allowed to exceed the salary cap to do so. He was on the roster for 2 years. And then you look at a player like Kendrick Nunn, who was in Miami. That is the taxpayer mid-level exception. So he got most of that. And then here's all your bargains. Kent Bazemore, Trevor Ariza, Dwight, Carmelo, Malik Monk, Wayne Ellington, all took the veteran minimum exception. And I like what they did today with Malik Monk. You're able to get Kendrick Nunn. You got a little bit younger. You got some shooting to put around the big three here. And they still have 3 roster spots. But the most important thing, $34 million luxury tax penalty, the biggest ever in Laker franchise history. So there's a cost associated to this roster.
They'll be writing a lot of checks there.
Yeah.
And by the way, earlier in the day today, it was the big fella, Marc Gasol, saying, in fact, he would be coming back to the Lakers next season. We've talked a lot about first dominoes falling, right? We've seen quite a few dominoes fall so far, Bobby. Who's left?
Yeah, so I call them the cap space free agents. That's what their label was before free agency started. Those aren't the players who are going to sign for the taxpayer mid-level or even the full mid-level. That's the players like Spencer Dinwiddie, Larry Markkinen, Reggie Jackson, Dennis Schroder, who was with the Lakers there. And the problem right now is that the market's frozen. There's only about 3 teams that have cap space. You're looking at a team like Charlotte. New York's got a little bit. San Antonio, Oklahoma City. So a player like Dinwiddie trying to arrange a sign and trade to get to Washington. It's complicated because the Nets want compensation back.
Right.
We saw in the DeMar DeRozan sign and trade. They got a first-round pick, 2 seconds. Devontae Graham to New Orleans. Charlotte got a first-round pick. So you got to have some, you've got to work with the team here. Schroeder is the most interesting one for me. Turned down 4 years, $84 million, and is now looking for a new home.
Gambled on himself.
Team that he's been intrigued about playing with. He's got a close relationship with Jimmy Butler. He fits right into that Heat culture and certainly a contending team in the Eastern Conference. After 6 p.m., the Raptors in Miami can start talking about a sign and trade agreement. That would allow Lowry to go there. At a contract number that he would like. Goran Dragic, Precious Achiuwa, a couple players from Miami that you would expect those teams to be talking about. But I think that there's a lot of momentum ultimately to lead Kyle Lowry to the Heat.
Lowry won a championship in Toronto, of course, with Kawhi Leonard, who is also a free agent after he declined his $36 million player option. So, Woj, what are you hearing about Kawhi's plans in free agency?
The expectation is that Kawhi Leonard will re-up with the Clippers. They can start talking about a new deal again after 6 p.m. today. He's really going to be spending the coming year rehabbing that ACL injury. I think there's some hope that maybe he could play at some later stage of the season, but there's also the possibility that Kawhi Leonard would be out all season, and the Clippers are preparing and looking at their roster and their salary cap. I think in taking that into consideration is they look at a little bit of a longer view, especially a potential season without Kawhi Leonard, but the belief is that he will return to LA.
Okay. Like Kawhi, Chris Paul also declined a sizable player option to hit free agency, $44 million. That's a big number. What are the Suns going to have to shell out in order to retain his services?
Well, that's something that they'll be able to start talking about again today. And I think there's a lot of pull between the Suns and Chris Paul. Both want to be together. Both want to find a way to get a new deal done. I think you can expect them to land on a long-term extension, certainly something multi-year that would keep Chris Paul with the Suns. He wants to be back there. They want him back. It's just a matter of the negotiation.
Still chasing that elusive ring. 2 wins away this year was Chris Paul with that team. And Woj, you've also reported that the Sixers continue to speak with teams about a potential Ben Simmons trade. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, Philadelphia continues to canvass the league. They're asking a steep price for Ben Simmons, as you would expect they would. I think their hope is, and Ben Simmons' hope is, that they can find a deal somewhere before the start of training camp. Philly was on the phone yesterday. I expect they'll be talking to teams again today. They want an all-star level player. They want multiple first-round draft picks, pick swaps. So they'll continue to do that, see if they can find a team that meets something close to that price. But remember, Ben Simmons has 4 years left on his contract. The Sixers can simply bring him back to training camp again.
All right, free agency set to begin again today, 6 p.m. Eastern.